What's up, everybody? Welcome back to Rascal Reacts, where you ask for my 2 cents and I'll give you a nickel. This is Christina Cardenas. And after doing time in California and being around folks that have done time in California and staying connected to the incarcerated and the formerly incarcerated community, sometimes you think you've heard it all, you know? And then this happens. And you come across something that is just beyond the imagination of wild and disgusting and traumatizing. And so we're going to get into this. You can see the headline for this article. I'm not going to read the article or anything else, but wife told stripping down and undergoing forceful cavity search to see inmate husband was just part of visiting. Gets a major payout. And she does, right? She gets a major payout, and we'll get into that. But nothing justifies or compensates for what this woman endured. So what we're going to do is this. I'm going to play a little bit of what she said at her press conference announcing the lawsuit back in 2020. And she doesn't get into the nitty gritty, but I will. And then we'll go from there.
On September 6th, 2019, I traveled to CCI,
That's Tehachapi.
expecting to have a family visit with my husband and a weekend filled with love and laughter. I not only did not get to visit my husband, but instead I was met with hostility by the CCI officers and forced into demeaning, humiliating situations. I was bullied
That's putting it mildly.
and treated as though my body, my person, and my character, and I myself did not matter. I am married to and in love with an incarcerated man. This is not a crime. It does not make me a criminal. In the culmination of their repeated attempts to prove me a criminal, I believe to justify their abuse, I was sexually violated. I am still in shock, and I don't believe I've yet come to terms with the full capacity of the sickening nature of the sexual violation that occurred at the hands of the officers and the medical doctor. I have experienced and continue to experience a range of emotions, from feeling debilitated and frozen and helpless to bewilderment and disbelief to outrage. Why, as an innocent woman, was I left battered and sexually violated? No woman should have to suffer the atrocity of what was inflicted upon me. This is why I'm here.
That's right.
My desire is to right this wrong and shed light on the abuse of power and injustices that are committed on the family members and friends of the incarcerated who only wish to visit their loved ones.
And this video that I'm doing here is an effort to extend that shedding of light. This is fucking ridiculous. And I got a lot of visits in prison. I was one of the fortunate ones. My mom would come and see me. My sisters came and see me. I had a girlfriend for the first few years. I don't know what they endured. I think there's a lot of guys incarcerated who don't know exactly what their family endures. And when I get into the details of what this woman endured, it should shock your conscience. And so let's get into that, and I'll give you guys my thoughts after. So here's the case. And I'm just using this to give you guys the names of the individuals. I'm not going to read from this. It's a 40-something page document. I'll try to link to it. I downloaded it, but I'll figure it out. If you want to get it, just let me know. and I'll shoot it to you. But Gabriel Adame, that's an IGI officer at Tehachapi. He specializes apparently based on other lawsuits that inmates have made against him. He claims to specialize in monitoring the Mexican mafia. I don't give a fuck what the dude does. Nothing justifies what happened with this woman. Officer Rodriguez is a female, right? She's a female correctional officer, and she was present for the most degrading elements of this hours-long ordeal that Miss Cardenas went through. And then Dr. I-Wen Tseng is the doctor at Adventist Health Tehachapi Valley, which apparently is about a 20-minute drive from the prison. And he's the one who penetrated the woman, right? Put his fingers where they didn't belong, various places, and we'll get into that. And then obviously the California Department of Corrections, the prison in the state of California, and there's a host of stuff that is alleged in here. So what happened? What's going on? Christina Cardenas is married to Carlos Cardenas. He is incarcerated for armed robbery. He's doing a boatload of time, which I don't fully understand. This is him. He's at Calipatria now. So he went into prison in 2001. He's 43 years old. If you do the math, he was a youthful offender. And he had let me get off the screen. He had a suitability hearing just prior to this visiting issue and was denied for 10 years. So I don't know how much time he got, but he's doing a boatload of time for an armed robbery. I don't know who he is. I don't know what he's got going on at the prison. I don't really care. No matter what, it doesn't warrant what happened to this woman who is his wife and just going to a visit. So she pulls up for a family visit to the prison on a Friday. And for those that don't know, if you're married or if you're the mother or the kid of an incarcerated person, then you can apply for family visits. And essentially you go to like a trailer or something else on the prison grounds where it's kind of like a studio apartment. It's got a little kitchen in there. You can bring food to cook. Obviously, all your property gets searched and there's restrictions on what you can and can't bring. And you're kind of left alone in this space for the weekend or overnight or whatever. I wasn't married when I was incarcerated, so I never experienced that. I'm not the best person to give you all the details on how it works, but that's the gist of it. So she goes for this family visit. It's her first family visit in over a year. There was actually one that she was supposed to have a month earlier, and it was just all of a sudden canceled with no reason. So she shows up. She's excited. She's been driving 4 hours. It's like 250 miles. She's from San Diego, like I said, La Jolla, somewhere around there. So she shows up, and there's a family visiting officer that greets her and says, hey, you got to go to this room. So she gets brought into the side room, and that's when Adame comes in. That's when the IGI guy comes in and says, you got any contraband, you got any drugs, whatever? She says, no. He says, okay, well, I got a search warrant. She says, am I going to be stripped? And he says, yeah, you're going to be stripped. And she starts crying. She starts shaking because she has been strip searched at this prison before. She got married at this prison to Carlos like 3 years prior to this. And on her wedding day coming in, they stripped her out. Didn't find anything. She's never been found guilty of anything, nothing. And so she's already starting to panic, right? The trauma setting in. And then Officer Rodriguez comes in. Officer Rodriguez said, I'm the one that's going to make this happen. So the search warrant is an illegal search warrant on its face. It was signed at like 8:36 in the morning. She shows up at 8:30 in the morning. There's no probable cause affidavit presented to her or shown by CDC after this or anything else. So who knows how they got the judge to sign off on this. But the boundaries of the search warrant are illegal, right? It says that anybody, not specifically Christina, anybody coming to visit this inmate is subject to being searched. They, with consent, right? If they consent, they get searched. And if they get x-rayed and there is it shows that there's a foreign object inside of them that could potentially be contraband, then you can do what you got to do to get that object out if they're not going to surrender it willingly. But the idea that you get to search anybody, you get to strip out and x-ray and all stuff, anybody coming to visit this individual is outside the scope of what a search warrant can do, right? So that's an issue, that's a legal issue of its own. But so Officer Rodriguez and another CO bring her into another room. And they go, if you've been locked up, if you've been incarcerated, you know the routine. Right? Open up your mouth, stick out your tongue, check your ears, put your hands through your hair, all the shit. Take off your shirt. She takes off her shirt. Throws it to the cop. They go through, pat it down, throw it to the side. Take off your sports bra. Take off your bra. So now she's topless, right, with these COs. It appears it was only female COs, but nonetheless, right, she's topless with these COs. Take off your pants. Just get this party going. Take off your underwear. Now she's completely naked. She's trying to cover up her breasts. She's trying to cover up her private areas. She's embarrassed. These people have a badge. That badge is powerful. And I think sometimes we underestimate the authority and just what comes with that, right? When somebody with a badge is telling you what to do and what that does to a person. And she just wants to fucking visit her husband. She just wants a family visit. So she's going to do what she's got to do to go through the routine, but it ain't right. Little does she know, I think, at this time, just how far these people are willing to go and are going to go. So now she's naked. They tell her squat cough. They put a mirror on the ground. I don't know if that's normal for females that are incarcerated. Again, keeping in mind, she's not incarcerated. She's not a criminal. But I don't know if that's how they normally strip out women in prison, because I've never been a woman in prison. But they put a mirror on the ground so they can, catch a view. Tell her squat and cough. She does it. That's not good enough. You gotta squat more. Use your fingers. Spread your cheeks. Spread your lips. So she's doing this. Invasive as fuck, right? She's doing this. There's no contraband. There's nothing to be found because she doesn't have any contraband. So, and through this, she's crying and she's being ridiculed. Oh, wipe your tears, man. You know what time it is. You know how this goes. Right? Why are you even visiting this guy? So she's stripped out. Now tell, okay, get dressed. Here comes Adame, the IGI officer. They handcuff her, bring her out to a CDC vehicle, and the IGI cop, Rodriguez, the female cop, and some other unnamed CO drive her to the hospital. And they go through the part where like ambulances go. So if you've ever been taken to the hospital by ambulance or by law enforcement, you know that it's a little different entry process, right? So they bring her in there. She's handcuffed. She's walking. Her attorney described it as a perp walk. And the lady ain't done nothing wrong. She walks in, and they, start asking all these questions in front of the COs. Also personal health questions, women's health questions. They tell her, hey, man, you want to take a pregnancy test? She says, no. They say, tough, you're going to take one anyways. They give her a pregnancy test. What a pregnancy test has to do with any contraband is anybody's guess. To go backwards, while she's at the prison, while she's at Tehachapi, before she's handcuffed and taken to the hospital, she asks to use the restroom. And they tell her no, right? So they tell her no. So she's there. She's never read her rights in this process. She's never nothing. So there's all kinds of legal violations that are happening just fucking left and right. With every move that they make, they're breaking more laws. So she's at the hospital. She takes a pregnancy test. She takes a drug test, right? Which at each turn they're asking her and she's saying no and they're doing it anyway. So give her a drug test. She says, hey, can I get like a sip of water or something? They say no because we might have to do emergency surgery on you. So we can't have you drinking any water. Crazy. So then here comes the doctor, right? And they say, hey, we're going to put you in for an x-ray. So she goes, they x-ray her laying down. They x-ray her standing up. The x-ray comes back negative. She doesn't have anything. And then they say, hey, we're going to go do a CT scan. Maybe a CT scan or something. She's handcuffed. And because there's metal on her pants, they're like, hey, you got to unbutton your pants and pull them down. And the COs are right there, right? I believe the male CO also is there watching, right? They're escorting officers. And so she's handcuffed, she's crying, she's shaking, she's trying to kind of undo her pants so that she can pull it down, and they do the CT scan and it comes up negative. Nothing there. So I bring her to another little room in the hospital. I tell her, look, man, we know you got stuff. And all along, why are you visiting this guy? On the drive, she's telling him, what's your justification? Says, why are you doing this to me? Oh, well, we've been listening in on your phone calls, and you told this other inmate who's an associate of your husband that you and your husband had something going on. What did you guys have going on? And she's like, there's been a death in the family, and we're having some issues. There's some depression, this and that. Like, so just invading in her conversations, mocking her for visiting this guy, challenging her like, we know you're up to something, and just harassing her while also humiliating her in multiple ways. So then she goes into the doctor's office, into the side room. The doctor says, look, I'm going to find what you got regardless. She's shaking, she's traumatized, she's crying, she's being violated, and they have her sitting on a table and they tell me to take your pants off. So they strip her down from the waist down, spread her legs, and the doctor takes his fingers, inserts them inside her female parts, moving them around, right? Digging. Also says there's a digging motion that this fucking doctor's doing as she's sitting here handcuffed, crying, shaking. Then he's like, let's check the rectum. Maybe it's up there. Puts his fingers in there, same thing, digging around. They assaulted this woman. They tortured this woman. This is fucking torture, right? In my opinion, you guys let me know what you think in the comments, but you can't convince me otherwise. This is torture. There's nothing there. She hasn't done anything wrong. Everything's ridiculous. And the warrant, which again is illegal anyways, is not valid anyways. But even in the warrant, it says only in the case of a positive X-ray can you start probing to get the contraband that shows up in that positive X-ray. There's no fucking positive X-ray. They handcuff her again. Get dressed. Handcuff her. While she's there, and then now she has to go to the bathroom again. She's like, hey, I gotta pee. They put a chair with the pan underneath her, and in front of the COs, tell her squat. So she pees in a pan. She'd been asking for food. I guess this idea of the emergency surgery kind of goes out the window. The COs are getting snacks from the vending machines. They're laughing, they're chatting, they're just chopping it up, having a good old time, drinking sodas in front of her while she's dehydrated, she's traumatized, she's crying, she's all this. They search her car, they search her property. The IGI cop tells her, hey man, tell me about you smoking weed. She goes, I don't smoke weed. Well, your car smells like weed. It's bullshit. Nobody's ever smoked a joint or a cigarette or anything else in my vehicle, right? They didn't find anything. They find a card because she's native, right? So they find a card that says she belongs to this native church and she can carry around spiritual herbs, that kind of stuff, which she doesn't have any. They don't find any, but the IGI cop's interrogating her about that. Well, what about that? Well, what fucking business is it of yours, right? So they handcuff her. They bring her back to the prison. Say, hey, your family visit's canceled because it's too late. It's too late. This has been hours now. It's too late. She says, can I, she's back talking to the family visiting officer, Stanton, I believe his name is. And she says, can I come for a regular visit with my husband tomorrow? You got to understand, she's driven all this way. She was planning to spend the weekend. She probably figured, well, I'll just go buy a hotel, I guess, and at least try to see my man. He goes, let me check, and goes to the IGI officer. IGI officer says, no, you can't. And she's sent on her way. I've read multiple articles about this, and you read the comments, and it appears that she's not the only one. So she sues, right? She sues on behalf of herself. Gloria Allred takes the case. Now, Gloria Allred's kind of a high-profile attorney, And she's done some stuff and said some stuff that I didn't necessarily agree with in the past. But in this case, she showed up and she showed out. So the video I showed you is from a press conference in 2022 where they're announcing. I'll link to that press conference. It's like a 30-minute video. The attorney speaks. This guy speaks right after her. There's a lot to it, but I'll link to that in the description of this if you guys want to go watch it. And so they sue. And as part of the suit, they want an injunction saying, hey, CDCR can't do cavity searches on fucking visitors anymore. Like, let's stop that. If we're going to draw the line somewhere, let's draw the line at you can't take visitors to local hospitals and have doctors sticking their fingers all up in them for kicks and giggles. The lawsuit got settled just like this week, last week, whatever. $5.6 million. 3.6 of that is coming from the California Department of Corrections. The other 2 million is coming from the doctor that I named. What's his name? Dr. Tseng, whatever it might be. And Officer Gabriel, Adame, the IGI officer, and Officer Rodriguez. So the other 2 million is going to be paid by them and the hospital. I haven't seen anything. I haven't found anything that says that they were fired, that the doctor was penalized, that he temporarily lost his ability to practice medicine, if not permanently lost his ability. So I don't know what consequences any of these people face. Like I said, the Goon Squad guy, the gang investigator, Adame, he's been sued before for doing shady shit. And so I'm speechless. But again, as somebody that was incarcerated, but you shouldn't have to be incarcerated or have loved ones incarcerated to be able to identify with the brutality of this story. That's why I hope you guys share this video. You know, I know not everybody's into the prison content or what this rapper's saying and all that. And I get that. You know, it's a niche audience. But this should be relevant to everybody. Relevant to everybody. And I just want to highlight the bravery of this woman to come forward. Because, let me finish the point about the settlement. So as a part of the settlement, of course, nobody admits any wrongdoing. And that injunction doesn't happen. They don't actually get the injunction against cavity searches of female visitors to men that are incarcerated. What they do get is CDC sent out a memo. They got to send a memo to all the prisons saying CDCR has to send a memo to all the prisons saying, hey, let's not forget, guys, to be respectful of the visitors coming in. And if you're going to serve them with search warrants in the future, you have to give them a copy of the search warrant and the probable cause affidavit. And let's just be a little more polite, essentially. That's the way I interpret it. People shouldn't be getting searched. You know, this shouldn't happen. And the women in our lives when we're incarcerated carry a huge burden. I'm sure there's a lot of women who have gone through maybe similar stuff or some degree of harassment or abuse or violation. And they don't tell their guy. They don't tell their son or their husband or their brother or whatever. Because they don't want them to stress out more. They don't want them to flash and go blast the CO, right? They don't want them to get more time. And that's what a lot of women do who have a loved one incarcerated. They bear their burdens quietly. You know, they don't want to stress out their guy. And I get it. I respect it. This can't happen though. And as much as I'm against folks, you know, snitching and ratting and all that stuff, that's lifestyle stuff. But this right here, these are civilians. And I hope that more women come forward and identify their abusers. And I hope that there's pressure put on the government to punish these abusers. These were crimes. Crimes happened to this woman. And it doesn't appear that anybody's being held accountable besides the financial payoff. But I get the sense that she's not going to let this go. I don't think you can pay her enough to be quiet. And I hope that more women that have endured this on any level come forward and speak up. And you don't have to put up with this shit. When she said in her conversation, look, I'm in love with a guy that's incarcerated, and that's not a crime. Man, I feel that, right? And she's absolutely right. So, anyways, this video is a little bit long, but what do you guys think? What are your thoughts? What are your experiences? Have you heard about this kind of shit to this degree? I knew that sometimes visitors get stripped out by female officers. I thought that happens like after the dog has sniffed the car and come up with something or whatever. CDCR claimed that they got a tip. They got a kite. Somebody dropped a dime on Carlos and said that he was going to be getting contraband in. I have no idea if that's true or not. I really don't fucking care. This woman did not deserve what happened to her. That is not the price of marrying somebody incarcerated, no matter what your dude in prison is doing or not doing. And like I said, I have no idea who he is. Probably be somebody in the comments or the DMs that are like, oh man, that's so-and-so or whatever. I don't think it's relevant to this story regardless, but let's say for argument's sake that he's that guy. Big deal, shot caller, hold out, he's the man. She's not, she's his wife. And there's got to be boundaries. There's got to be lines. And I feel like those were crossed in this case, and I feel like they've been crossed in a lot of other cases that we haven't heard about. And I hope that we do. Shouts out to all the women that hold it down for dudes that are incarcerated. They don't get enough appreciation. And I don't mean hold it down in the hood sense or the gang sense or passing kites or whatever. I did all that. I had visitors bring me contraband in prison. I had visitors do, send messages and fake P.O. boxes. And I had all that. But I also just had people that loved me and were there to support me. And I'm not proud of putting my loved ones in the position to participate in those things. I was a kid and I was foolish and I was wrong for doing that. And if you're doing that with your visitors, dare I say, you're fucking wrong too. But again, she was innocent and they went too far. Let me know what you guys think. Again, I'll put links in the description of the video and stay tuned. I appreciate everyone for, the thoughts and the prayers. And I'm still trying to bounce back from this surgery, and it's not going the best, every day, but, I'll be all right. Life is what it is. Share the video, like the content, stay tuned to the homie Hangout. I got some lighthearted stuff dropping over there today, hopefully, if I can get it out. And I'll catch you guys on the next one, man. Thank you.